Hey everyone, I'm going to be showing you today how I made my Samurai Predator diorama. For this diorama I used the NECA Big Red Predator that came out back in 2010. It was a really cool figure, but I think that the paint job was done kind of poorly. I also had this leftover xenomorph, and a few of his pieces had broken and I wasn't quite sure what to do with them, but I also really enjoyed his sculpt and the colors. Once I cut his head, I cured the UV resin onto it and was able to paint it to make it look like it was the acid and goo leaking from it. If you couldn't tell, my inspiration from this was the 2025 Hot Toys Akaioni Predator. The original was actually the one that had inspired this idea, and then they had come out with the newest one. The original Predator was one of my favorites for years and years, but due to the price I wasn't ever really able to get my hands on it. Here I replaced his wrist gauntlet, or, whatever you want to call it. I replaced that with a new one, which I painted over. Here you can see that I applied a dark red paint to his armor for those shadows and just those darker tones that help with contrast. And I dry brushed it with a brighter red that kind of matched his previous color. This is always one of my favorite things to do whenever I'm painting a diorama or touching up a figure, is the dry brush and bringing out, different tones. I wanted to brush a little bit of orange in between the cracks and crevices of his skin to kind of bring some more detailed attention to it and make it a little bit more realistic. I made a skirt for him to kind of hide, not replace, but hide his original one and have those two kind of work together. This one was actually just made using an old t-shirt, and to get it to kind of hold frame, because it just kind of gets floppy, I used Mod Podge to make it hold. As you can see here, the bands on his shoes, whether they're supposed to be brown or black, just weren't really strong in its difference between his foot colors. So I went ahead and decided to choose black for the color of the straps. Here on some of his leg armor, there is some details that I think are really great to show that this is battled and worn, but again, these just kind of get lost in the general applications of paint, and I want to bring that back out again. I want to breathe some life into it and make it look good. So I always like taking chrome enamel paint and kind of brushing over just a little bit in these areas. If you couldn't tell here, the little yellow dot on top of his helmet has actually been redone, repainted, because the original just did not stand out at all. The paint application was totally off from where it was supposed to be. I had also filled in his katana holders, his sheaths for those katanas, and repainted those as well. And it's looking pretty good at this point. I'd done most of the paint application. To get his hand to have more of a uniform grip and shape on this katana, I took my heat gun and waved it back and forth just a little bit to get that rubber hot and kind of like rubbery and bendable. And I grabbed the katana, I stuck his hand in some cold water, and then it kind of immediately hardened so that it holds that katana specifically a little better. This blade, I wanted to make it look like this was used to sever the xenomorph's head, so I took some UV resin again and then cured that as it was dripping. This took a couple different layers to get it to kind of flow properly. And then I'm just taking some Tamiya panel liner and using that to bring out again some of these details in the blade itself. And just like that, I always love using Tamiya panel liner or just a dark wash to really bring out important sculpted details in figures that just get sadly kind of lost for mass production. Please use a respirator whenever you guys are melting high density foam board. The fumes are really bad for you, and it stinks. It smells very bad. It kind of smells like you're losing brain cells. At this point, I got the Torii gate together using balsa wood, wood glue, and those wooden dowel rods. This is a 3D printed roller that I used on top of the hydrocal mixture to get that kind of old cobblestone look. I really wanted that for this diorama. I wanted kind of like a more, kind of couple 100-year-old road pattern to it. At this point, the Predator is pretty much done. I was really impressed with how the paint turned out on him. Really just brought him to life and made him look a bit more realistic than it was formerly. If you can see there on his back behind his shoulder as well, there's a metal samurai sword that I had bought separately. Here I'm just getting a base layer down of the black to cover up the tone of all the plaster and the high density foam board. Now I'm going over it with a light brushing of highlights to kind of bring out these edges of the stone. I'm applying some browns and greens to kind of make it look old and dirty, a little bit of green growth on it. I also used some glossy varnish in between some of the cracks to make it look like there was water running through these rocks. And like that, we're done. The Torii gate, I had made it look weathered by scratching into it, into like pulling out pieces of the wood itself and gluing some mossy bits onto it. And I attached a real coin that I had brought back from Japan to this Torii gate. The bamboo was made using styrene tubes and heavy cardstock that I had cut meticulously to look like leaves. I then attached those to the bamboo using some metal wire. And that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and please treat that like button like a fly on the wall and smash the hell out of it. It would really help my channel grow. I will see you guys in the next video.